In an old and small house, I lived on a worn-out blanket alongside a few needles and safety pins that were just like me. The woman who used the blanket would occasionally pick me and my companions off it and place us in a deep, colorful bowl on the shelf. Every time she opened and closed me, I felt ticklish. Sometimes she even used my sharp tip to unlock a door. I loved those moments. They gave me a sense of purpose. I hated staying in one place and being useless. One day, as I lay in that same flower-patterned bowl beside my friends, the woman came and picked me and one of my companions. She hung me on a curtain and left me there. I stayed in that spot for several days. It was relatively comfortable, but the loneliness was unbearable. From up there, I stared at the blanket where I used to be. My friends were still there, together, while I was stuck at this height. How I longed to return to their company. Up here, everything felt cold and lifeless. Even the breeze coming through the window did little to ease my loneliness. One night, the woman took me off the curtain. When she opened me, she held me in her hands for a few minutes. Her thick, large fingers gripped my body. She opened and closed me a few times. At first, it felt nice. It relieved my exhaustion. But soon, this game went on for too long, and I began to feel uncomfortable. She opened me again, and this time, she attached me to her shirt. Now, wherever she went, she took me with her. Sometimes, she would place her palm on me and gently tap me. It was a new experience for me. People are such strange and unpredictable creatures. I wasn't made for these things. 2 days later, without removing me from her shirt, she took it off and threw it into a basin full of water. I was trapped in the soapy water and the wet shirt I was attached to. It was the first time my body touched water. She grabbed the shirt tightly, wrung out the water, and hung it on a wide line. The scorching sun's direct light shone down on me. I was getting hot, but the wet fabric helped cool me down. However, the sun's heat was so intense that the fabric dried out quickly. The woman returned and took the shirt off the line. When she saw me, she detached me from the fabric and tightly squeezed me in her hand. Then, without paying attention to how I was, she tossed me into a container alongside needles and colorful threads. I kept getting tossed from one place to another. Why couldn't she understand that my place was where I had been before? Every few days, she would open the container, pick out a needle and some thread, and then close the lid again without even glancing at me. One day, she picked up the container and poured its contents onto the empty carpet. I, along with the other items, quickly tumbled out and landed in a corner of the room. When she was done with her work, she gathered all the threads and items back into the container, but she didn't see me. Without a second thought, she grabbed the container and left the room. When she was done with her work, she gathered all the threads and items back into the container, but she didn't see me. Without a second thought, she grabbed the container and left the room. Now I was lying on the floor, alone and motionless. I looked up at the ceiling, wondering if anyone would notice I was there. From above, I saw a small child crawling toward me. It sat down, reached out, and picked me up, bringing me straight to its mouth. Everything changed. A new place, dark and damp. My body was pressed against something soft and wet, and then suddenly, I fell into a deep hole. I heard a loud sound, and then, amidst a flood of water, I was thrown out of that place. The woman screamed. After that, I jumped out of the hole and landed on the carpet. I had no idea what had just happened. Why was she screaming and crying? When the noise stopped, she laid the child on the mattress and bent down. Her hands were searching frantically. Her gaze fell on me. She quickly picked me up and threw me into the yard. I hit the ground with a thud. It hurt. I felt like I had been struck on the head. The sun's heat burned my scalp. The warmth of it bothered me. The woman's actions shattered my heart. Why had she thrown me away? What had I done wrong? Night fell. Darkness enveloped everything. I was scared. I didn't like being alone. I had never been alone before. I spent the whole night in sorrow, waiting for the morning. Early in the morning, I saw the woman come to the yard with a broom and dustpan, starting to sweep. Anxiety and fear consumed me. She moved the broom so fast and forcefully that the sound of its scraping echoed in my head. With each step, she got closer. At one point, she dragged the broom across the ground and tossed me aside. I, along with the dirt and fallen leaves, gathered in a corner. She swept again, and I was placed in the dustpan. Only then did I realize what had happened to me. She shoved us into a garbage bag, and after that, I saw nothing else. I was trapped among the foul-smelling, contaminated garbage. There was no way out. I knew this was my final stop, and I would never return to my home. I thought to myself how short and futile my life had been. A life with little joy and an uncertain future that awaited me. I gave in and surrendered myself to fate. Deep down, I wished I wouldn't reach the end.